Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Daily. We are glad you made it. We have some great information to share with you, like always. And first, Clay, welcome back. It was pretty lonely without you. I did a couple videos without you, and I almost talked to myself and did that whole thing, but I decided not to because it was just going to get too awkward and weird. So glad to have you back. I don't know how much you can divulge or not with your secret squirrel life, but you know, I'm excited to go through the agenda today. So if you'd like to share the agenda and get us kickstarted, that'd be great. For everybody out there, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, and look, help us get to that 10,000. We're excited to get there with this channel. We're almost there. Have a spouse, uncle, brother, sister, daughter, whatever, right? It's just lovely to get us to over 10,000. We're really looking forward to it. All right, Clay, you.
Yeah, so today's topic is the do's and don'ts. We're going to cover 4 topics here, but like, should veterans tell others about their VA ratings, their family members, other veterans, people they served with? Then we're going to go into, should veterans use VA healthcare, which is a huge topic. It can support, also not so much for your VA disability claim. Then we're going to go into, should veterans submit statements with their claim, whether that's personal statements or lay statements. And then finally, should veterans check the status of their claim? We're talking about the anxiety-ridden, checking my claim status every single day. So with that, Jason, let's go to the do's and don'ts. Should veterans tell others about their VA ratings? I'm going to kick it to you, but before I do, I took a poll. Right? I know. I took polls.
Yes.
Here we are. I'm on Veterans Daily channel right now, so I haven't seen the results of this. This was 10 days ago. We're supposed to do this last week. But right now I'm going to vote so we can see the results. I can tell you personally, I am PNT and I do not. So that's the option I'm going to choose. And here we are. We have 22. So there's 2 yeses and 2 nos. The 2 yeses are I am PNT and I do, or I would. That is 51% if I can do math on screen. And then the other ones would be 49%. So it's about a 50-50 split on, you know, do people use their DV plates on their primary vehicle or not? And so it really comes down, that's an underlining question of, should veterans tell others about their VA disability rating? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, God, man. So like everything in this world, it's all nuanced, right? So I personally, typically, yes. And the reason why is because I'm walking through with them. Maybe, look, you never filed or anything because you don't think you rate, because you have your arms and legs and can do this. Well, so can I, and I'm rated, and I did everything the right way. I didn't fake anything, right? To just kind of hammer the point home and to explain from a personal level, even if it's somebody that I don't know well, to a veteran. So veteran to veteran, right? Not veteran to somebody who's not a veteran who, you know, why don't go there, because they get all wrapped around the axle on weird shit. So if you're using it to bring the points home, share some information, be able to kind of give some sort of a reality check on things, and you need to use it as an example. For example, I'm rated for my back and I have radiculopathy and I got rated for this, for that, and this for that. Obviously, it's good to throw in. Results may vary, right? Results may vary. It would be an important kind of little tagline, I guess, in there. But I would say you're not going to just throw it out there to fucking, you know, to pat yourself on the back, right? That would be weird. So if you're using it and telling people for the right reasons to help them open their eyes and their awareness, I'm all about it. That second one, DV plates, you know, that's a hard thing, man. That's a hard thing, because for some of us, it's like, okay, I'm rated at 100% permanent and total, but it's for like I got 60% because my eyeball's a snow globe now, right? That alone is a pretty big rating. It's not that hard to stack on some more to get to where you need to be. And so when you get out of your car, although my back, I mean, if I drive more than 15 minutes, I'm a little hunched over when I get out. So I really look like I should be in that parking spot.
Yeah.
So I do have DV plates on my vehicle because really, quite frankly, I don't want I'm saving money, right? You put it on the most expensive vehicle that you have, and now you don't have registration fees. So it's a saving money thing. I'm a fan of separating it out. Would you like both? Would you like one? Would you like the other? Do you just want them waived and no blue cube? I'll take the one without the blue cube. I'm cool with that. I just don't want to pay fees, but they make you take the blue cube, right? The little handicap cube on your vehicle. So, that's kind of my thoughts on that. I know it's a bit long-winded. I want to hear you, Clay. Go.
Oh yeah. So this is such a weird question. And when I asked this in previous videos, I got all kinds of responses, and it kind of comes down to this. First, I'll speak from the perspective of myself. We're content creators on VA disability. You can watch 10 of our videos and figure out our VA disability ratings just by what we're saying. Okay. And so it's difficult for us to hide it. So we just don't personally. Well, I don't personally. And so outside of that context, should a veteran tell people about their VA disability ratings? I'm actually going to say no. I've heard stories, not me personally, but I've heard stories of family members kind of looking down on veterans because they are, how do I say this? It's like a welfare check almost, right? It's like, oh, you are able-bodied. You don't deserve that, $4,000 a check per month. That's not taxable. And I understand where they're coming from, although it's ignorance, because like you said, it's not always your musculoskeletal conditions like your back, your knees, your shoulders. You could have 70% for mental health, not to mention the 20 plus year war we're kind of out of, kind of still in. I don't really know what that looks like right now. You could have mental health going on. You could have sleep apnea. Those two right there, 70, 50, that's 90. Right? That's just two. That has nothing to do with your ability to do front flips or back flips, assuming you're flipping in the first place, right? So it's not always your musculoskeletal conditions, but when you hear VA disability, that's what people refer to, the blue placard with the wheelchair. And it kind of gets down into, I'll explain why I do not have DV plates on. It kind of varies by state. But in Virginia, you can have the tax exemption for your vehicle, but not request the DV plates. So I have a normal license plate. If I did request the DV plate, by the way, for the record, I would have the DV on there, and I would do C1V, D1V for CivDiv. Just food for thought. If I did it, that's what I would do. That has nothing to do with my answer, but the reason why I don't is exactly what you said. I don't want.
You have that option.
I'm already on YouTube spouting all this stuff, right? Which is, I would say for myself, I definitely give out way too much personal information. I should probably pull back on that, but it's already out there. Two, when I go to Harris Teeter or Walmart or wherever it is I'm shopping at, right? I don't want the general public to know, hey, I'm getting out of my minivan. I do drive a minivan, by the way. I have 4 kids. I have a stroller. I only have a 10% rating for my back. That's my only muscle and a wrist. I have 10% for my back, 10% for my wrist. Those are my only musculoskeletal ratings. And so you would think disabled because of DV plate, but it's not that at all. 10% could be pain with motion. So I can bend down to the floor and pick up my baby, right? And it's weird things like that. People really don't understand VA disability. And I just wish it would change to VA compensation. That would make me sleep better at night. And it's the whole thing of, do I think veterans should tell other people? I don't think so. I think you get your rating personally. I think you get your rating. I think you keep it to yourself. Your immediate family members, like your spouse, your children for the Chapter 35. Other than that, just kind of get
So,
that, house up in the mountains in the cabin and
right.
chill,
Yeah. So my
Right.
question then to you, Clay, is, and I agree, you don't need to be telling the general public, even family, right? Because they get weird. Um, so what about other veterans though? You're a veteran, you come across another veteran, the stories go back and forth. Hey, so are you all squared away with the VA? No, I don't need that. Or no, I can't qualify. Where's that conversation go?
I think if it's a personal relationship or if it's a one-on-one face-to-face, then
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay. 100%, especially if you're trying to help that veteran saying, hey, here's what I did for my migraines. I know your migraines are just as bad, if not worse.
Right.
Here's what I did. I did the statement. I talked to my provider. I got prescribed medication. I refilled my
Yep.
prescriptions to
Yep.
show my frequency and severity and have that
Yep.
talk. I think
Yep.
it's totally okay to do that.
Yep.
I would caution, and I think you would agree with me on this one. I would caution going on like Reddit or Facebook or even YouTube comment section telling everyone you're 100% P&T because it's not going to be received well, and I can tell you that from experience.
Right. Yeah. And I think that what I would envision here is everybody who watches our videos, regardless of what channel, they have enough information to really be dangerous, right? In a good way, right? Dangerous to the VA, getting their stuff through. They have enough knowledge to where when they do meet somebody out at a coffee shop who's wearing a hat that identifies whatever, they see a CIB or something on there, and they're like, oh, hey, you served them whatever, and it goes on and on. They're sitting there waiting for their coffee. They mention it. They mention a few things. Maybe they mention some of their ratings, whatever. You could do it too. You should watch these channels on YouTube to get more information, right? Because look, we barely know what we know, right? So, and we talk about this stuff every day, and just the more guiding people to more information is a good thing. Even if you're driving them to the VA, it's a little dry. It's a little dry to read through some of the VA stuff, but if you're driving them to some channels on YouTube, it will help them start to understand a little more and then go from there. So I think that that's probably what I would be looking for. I think from somebody, or guiding them to an accredited rep in their neighborhood if they know one, right? Ideally, go there, just have a benefits check-in and talk with that accredited rep, right? So yeah, I agree. Anything else you want to throw in?
Nah, just I would caution if veterans do talk about their rating, I would caution on who it is they tell that to. You never know someone's intentions, and I don't want to, poke the bee's nest, but you tell enough people are going to start looking at you, right? And saying, well, an anonymous report to the OIG wouldn't hurt. And it's like, okay, like one, you don't understand VA compensation. You're looking at VA disability. Now you have OIG reports, and it's just not
right. Like Judge Judy. You probably wouldn't want to tell Judge Judy that you're a disabled veteran.
I'm going to link that video below in the comments because I know someone's going to ask about it. But yes,
you should, because that still pisses me off.
1,000%. And a side note, based on what you said, is if you did refer the veteran to Veterans Daily, they would also get Veterans Info Tap and CivDiv. So it's a three for one deal there, right?
That's right.
Transitioning now, Jason, into should veterans use VA healthcare, which is a totally different topic outside of what we just discussed. But this one's almost, there's no poll. All right, I'm sorry, there's no poll. But I would argue there would be a higher no than a higher yes, just from reading comments about VA healthcare. And as far as healthcare goes, this is, I'll speak on my experience, my personal experience. VA healthcare for me has been really good. I would probably say like 8 out of 10. There's definitely some things I would fix. The appointment times are really getting on my nerves at this moment. Right now, actually, I just made an appointment this morning. Try to. The wait times are a little out of hand, but as far as VA healthcare, for healthcare purposes, I think every veteran at a minimum should enroll and speak with their primary care. I think that should be the standard. Every veteran should have a relationship with VA healthcare. The VA secretary, I said that many, many times, and whether you like the VA or hate the VA, I still believe everyone should be enrolled in VA healthcare at a minimum. I have so much more on that, Jason. I want to kick it over to you. Should veterans use VA healthcare?
All right. Just a warning. I have hens that are laying eggs, or a hen that's laying an egg, and then they all jump in as a support. So you might hear that in the background. I'm going to push through like it doesn't exist. They're quiet now for a second, so we'll see if it jumps back in. All right. So yes, absolutely. And here's the couple different reasons. It doesn't matter if you're seeing a private doctor somewhere else, you should also go sign up for VA, right? So that's the number one thing. And here's my kind of, it's kind of twofold, I guess. One of the reasons is if we don't show a demand for a service, that service goes away. That's just business, right? So if all of a sudden no veterans are signing up for VA healthcare in your backyard, right? They will close that down and move it to where people are using it. So that is a real thing, and you need to be aware of that. And here's the other thing. If you don't go there, and let's say you go twice a year, right? If you go twice a year and you stop by the little snack shack or whatever they have in there, right? The more you use that, the more options they will have later, because they're actually bringing in money. It's all like business. It's all work, right? So it doesn't just magically appear there with everything that you want without the demand, right? You have to have the demand. So that's one piece, right? Because look, no matter how much we love or hate the VA, right? That option will go away in your neck of the woods if it's not being used. Just want to throw that out there. The other piece why you want to go utilize VA healthcare is especially if you have conditions that have future exams. Now, is it a requirement? Not necessarily, but it's a lot easier if you go there for those conditions and be seen and get it documented all under the VA umbrella and keep that kind of track going. It's just a smoother process as you're trying to maybe either one of two things. You're either going to heal, which is usually not the case, or it's going to become static, right? You're showing that it has not improved over a 5-year period, and maybe you're going to have that next exam that solidifies that, and they'll move that condition over to a static designation, which is important on your trip to 100% permanent and total, where you can then go get your DV plate. And if you live in Virginia, you get to decide whether you want the blue cube or not. Yeah. Which is great. So I think that really the two things for me is, one, making sure that you're documenting what you need to document on those non-static conditions where you might have a future exam. And then two is, look, I don't mind the VA. I've had shitty private doctors and I've had not so great VA. I mean, it doesn't really matter where, it's a people thing, right? Overall, the VA has been as good or better than any private doctor I went to. And I like the environment a little better because I know that I'm surrounded by a bunch of veteran patients in there, and you can just kind of look at each other and have a conversation. I mean, with any of them, be like, well, this sucks. Can't believe I'm sitting here, or whatever. Right. I mean, you can have those little kind of, little head nods and you know what you're saying. Right. And it's, I don't know, that part's a little bit comforting instead of walking into some private doctor somewhere. So that's my take on that, Clay.
Oh yeah. As far as the disability side goes, it comes down to one word, and that's evidence. Whether it's for a re-exam, an increase, a new claim, a supplemental, I don't care what kind of claim, it comes down to evidence. Can you use private for evidence? You absolutely can. And if you have that option, because it does cost money, go for it, right? But VA healthcare, if you're rated 50% or higher, no cost, no co-pays. Doesn't matter if you're rated for that or not. At 50% and higher, your healthcare is free. Now that's
And
for
prescriptions.
you, the veteran. Yeah. And so it's that alone, there's a monetary benefit for that. But for disability, it comes down to evidence. I had mentioned migraines earlier about the veteran telling the other veteran about how to get evidence. It's one thing to tell the C&P examiner, hey, examiner, I get 4 to 5 migraines per month. It's a whole other thing to say, hey, examiner, I have prescribed medication, sumatriptan at 100 milligrams. I've been taking for 6 months. I have 2 prescription refills. And so let's say one refill is 15 pills. You can do the math. And so now instead of you having a self-report of your frequency and severity of migraines,
Right.
you have hard medical evidence that can't be refuted. And even if, because it's totally probably going to happen, to be honest with you, even if the examiner does a poor job at completing the DBQ, you have the HLR process because you have the evidence. If you don't have the evidence, that HLR, higher level review, is gone. You're now into a supplemental claim realm, and supplementals are difficult. Right? They're absolutely difficult because you need to submit new and relevant evidence. Hence, go to VA healthcare. I am 100% for VA healthcare. And a side note, I wasn't really going to talk about this, but whatever, I'm feeling it right now. Outside of disability, I think healthcare for veterans is exponentially more important than your average civilian healthcare. I can't stress that enough. I'll just talk about my peer group because that's what I know. But like the post 9/11 generation, I can tell you that my friends need healthcare, and I can just look at them and tell you, brother, you got to take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself. I'm 31, by the way. Okay. Taking care of yourself is extremely important because when I am 40 or 50 or 60, like Jason's age, that's a joke.
I'm 50, not 60.
When I am that old, I want to be able to play with my kids, do this, do that. I don't want to be old and broken, and I just can't. I mean, healthcare is extremely important, and I can't stress that enough. I mean, I don't even know how else to say that. Go
Right.
Jason.
You know what? I think that you do bring up a good point. Now I got to show that I have hair at 50. All right. So
more hair than I do, dude. Look at that.
So it's it's that Chick-fil-A, man. Don't eat that Chick-fil-A. Make you lose your hair. All right. So here's the thing. And this is important. Number one, VA healthcare is a huge monetary benefit because you're not paying for it. Okay. And when you get to the point of you don't have any insurance, you're retired or whatever it is, you're not working, that is gigantic. Do yourself a favor and go on to a medical insurance website and see how much it would cost to cover you at your age. Play with the numbers, make yourself be older and see how much medical insurance costs for a premium plan, something with no copays, something that's, the Cadillac plan, right? So it is worth a lot of money. These plans or whatever, the VA healthcare. The other piece is that the VA, and this isn't really talked about enough, the VA healthcare system is the largest in the nation of a healthcare network, right? It's huge. They also have clients that are all veterans. That's important. Why? Because they are keeping data on all of us and seeing, okay, here's these issues rising here, here's these issues rising there, this is happening here, right? Doing all their nerdy mojo in the background to ideally help figure us out, right? Which is important, right? So they have this repository of information and they're running all these things. That they do that in the background constantly. So here's another piece that I like to throw out when it comes to healthcare, especially anybody who has served in any location that has presumptives assigned to it. Okay. If you have service in any location that has presumptives, doesn't matter if you have one of them, right? You have no issues, none of those conditions. Oh darn, right? The reality is that you are more likely to get one of those shitty conditions. The VA knows that based on the information they have on you, and they're going to kind of keep an eye on that. You would think they would keep an eye on that a little more, but you should also be having that conversation with your doctor, right? As a gentle reminder, hey, look, I know that really I should be screened at age 50 or 60 or whatever for this type of a condition. However, because I served in that location, I'm more apt to having that condition, a horrible cancer or something. Maybe we could test that a little bit earlier. I'm just saying, because I'm more likely to get it than anybody else. So it's just my way of thinking. And I think it's probably, I don't know, an ounce of prevention, right? So anyway, back to you, Clay.
I 100% agree. I couldn't agree more, actually, Jason, especially with the data. You know, I've said this a few times, and I'll always say it. The reason that Gulf War era and post 9/11 era have the PACT Act is because Vietnam veterans got shafted. Like, that is the only reason that was pushed. And it's through data, it's through VA health. It's a ton of things that are really way over my head. But you are 100% right. And I think everyone should be grateful to Vietnam veterans specifically for the PACT Act, because they got, they're still getting shafted right now as we speak. But I'll kind of get off that box because it's not good. But transitioning to, should veterans submit statements? And I hear this all the time. I definitely have a strong opinion on whether or not veterans should submit lay statements and personal statements with their claim. But before I give my take, Jason, I'm going to shoot it back over to you. And just, what do you think? Should veterans be submitting statements with their claim or not?
I think so. Personally, yes. And not in lieu of other evidence. Yeah. Okay. So it's as an addition, right? The perfect claim to me would have personal statements in it, unless you were, diagnosed in service for a condition that's just super easy, right? Anything else, I think that you should have your own personal statement. And I think that in a lot of cases, you're going to need buddy statements or statements from people that knew you, maybe prior and during your time in service, family members, that type of stuff, mother, father, brother, sister, cousins, whatever, people that you were close to that could attest to knowing you during your time in service. And they could talk about, they never knew you to have X until one day when you came home on leave and you sat down at the dinner table with a jar of Tums, right? And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, maybe you have a GERD or, hiatal hernia or something. Now that's a better way to go. If you have hiatal hernia, that's a nice rating to have. So anyway, all that to say is, yes, does the VA, in my opinion, right? I've been accredited with the VA for many years, so I understand that side. I've been able to remote desktop into the VA system, their VBMS system, look at claims, look at notes, look at all that stuff. Never worked for the VA. So I don't know. Personal, just kind of opinion. I think the VA doesn't give them as much weight as they probably should. As you're kind of, putting all this stuff together, but a lay statement and lay evidence is absolutely evidence, and it is legal evidence, and the board will view it as such. To you, Clay.
Yeah, that last point you made is really the big thing here. I think veterans should, at face value, agree that the VA at the initial level for your rating is not going to look at your statements. Although they should, it's probably not going to happen, okay? And I would totally agree with your opinion that statements do come in clutch on the board. I would 1000% agree. But my opinion on statements is there's kind of two different avenues. We have events. And so let's say, my friend killed himself and I have to prove that that event affected me. That would be a statement, like an event-based statement. And it could be any event, right? I was on this ship that had asbestos. Personnel records don't show that I was on that ship. Now I've got to provide a statement. It could be that. Or you have the most common statement, which are symptom-based or time-based. And those statements, I do think are absolutely valuable. I do think veterans should submit statements with the understanding that, hey, the rater's probably not going to look at it. And the reason I still say submit statements is for appeals, specifically two of them, higher level review and the Board of Appeal. That's when statements are really going to come in clutch. And I like how you said you don't submit statements in lieu of evidence. I'm just going to explain that a little bit because I couldn't agree with that more either. Let's go back to migraines, right? Hey, I have 4 to 5 migraines per month. If it's your first time filing for migraines, you have absolutely zero medical evidence that's current to show symptoms. You are solely relying, the veteran is solely relying on that C&P examiner to complete the DBQ. Yes, a self-report is supposed to be taken into account, but so is medical evidence. And so which weighs more? Is it the absence of evidence saying, hey, if you really do have prostrating migraines 4 to 5 times per month, wouldn't you think that would prompt someone to go get prescription medication, right? That's what the C&P examiner is thinking. I'm not saying they should, not saying they should not. I'm just letting you know how the cookie crumbles, okay? And so now you have the self-report, and you might even find a statement. Veteran reports migraines monthly, blah, 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 but is not severe enough to rate medication. They're using over-the-counter Tylenol, whatever it is the C&P examiner is going to give their opinion on. And you are solely relying on that examiner. But when you have medical evidence, because we go see VA healthcare, you have a statement that is in addition to that medical evidence. All of a sudden, let's say that C&P examiner does the same exact thing, which this happened to me. True story, this 100% happened. I had all the evidence, what I would call a perfect claim, from service, from current diagnosis, from current symptoms, everything except the nexus. And the C&P examiner made the nexus, so it was service connected, but at 0%. Now, because I'm educated and informed on my VA compensation claims, okay, I know I have to do a higher level review. And all I did was a higher level review with an informal conference. The rater called me and I said, hey, if you look at my statement, it shows you where in my medical records my evidence is. And that's it. 7 days later, 0 went to 50 in 7 days from a higher level review. That's the power of medical evidence, and that's the power of a statement. And so the reason I say all of that, this is like the culminating answer, Jason. In my opinion, the statement should be used to guide the rater to make the decision, whether that is symptom-based on severity or service connection. Saying, right, hey, I was seen for migraines in 2012 after this deployment, whatever, right? So symptoms or time, it should be used to guide the rater or worst case scenario, the judge, to make that decision. That's kind of the framework I would view statements and then go from there.
Yes, absolutely, Clay. It's a tool, right? And I like how you framed that, and it made me envision it's the thread that is connecting all the pieces of fabric that you're submitting, right? You want it all to be tied together and make it all make sense. Now, for those that don't know, there's been a lot of conversation about statements and buddy statements and all of that stuff throughout YouTube, right? And all the different online things. There's a lot of that. What I think is missing, and this part's probably, I don't know, I'm hoping it's important for folks. There are VA forms for that, right? Don't just take a piece of paper out and write on it and submit it. Utilize the forms provided by the VA. It makes the VA's life a lot easier because they know exactly what that is that they're looking at. So, for example, if you're going to write out a letter yourself explaining whatever it is, right? Tying in the service connection aspect, the Nexus aspect, tying in the percentage rating of which you should rate based on the schedule of ratings and where to find that information, like Clay was talking about. You would utilize the form 4138. It's 214121-4138 is that form. Okay, that's for you as the veteran who's filing the claim on behalf of yourself, or you have a service officer doing it for you, what have you. If you have a buddy, let's say me and Clay served together, and Clay knew that I was dying in my sleep every single night and snoring and hacking and stopping breathing, and he'd have to throw boots at me every night, right, to wake me up. And nobody, this is what people were doing who had to bunk with me, right, trying to figure out who had to sleep in the same area I was. Clay's a great buddy statement for my sleep apnea, right? My Nexus. So he's going to write me a letter, but he's not going to use the same one that I used. He's going to use form 21-10210. Mm-hmm. So 10-210. So it's 21-10-210 is that form. And he would write that on my behalf, attesting to blah, 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 all these things. And I would help Clay know what I'm filing for. I need the Nexus aspect and all of that stuff is really what I'm hammering home on here. And so I would have him articulate that in an appropriate way. So I just wanted to make sure that people understand that there are forms that can be utilized for this, and it's different forms for different people.
Oh yeah.
Clay.
Oh yeah. I got something to add, and I definitely want your thoughts on this as well. I would also put statements in 3 other categories. This is just how my mind works. I'm sorry. It just breaks things down in like a Christmas tree fashion. Category 1 is everything that cannot be x-rayed. I will die on this hill. I think every veteran should submit a statement for every claim that can't be x-rayed. What do I mean by that? Like your mental health. IBS, your IBS symptoms, right? An x-ray is not going to tell you how many times you're constipated and then going to the restroom, right? That picture, you could use pictures as well. That helps. We kind of won't go there, right? So mental health, IBS, migraines, things that cannot be x-rayed. Absolutely submit a statement for. Personal, lay statement, either or, both. Doesn't matter. Submit a statement. Then you have the maybe, right? Are you going to submit a statement for your lower back and say, hey, I can't bend down and touch my toes? I would say no on that. That's going to come out in the C&P exam. Now, what you could do is talk about, hey, I have this back injury. It was from service, in 2013, whatever happened. Since then, I've been taking over-the-counter medication, been doing physical therapy, blah, 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 blah. So you can kind of talk about your in-service events. So we have things that can't be x-rayed. We have things that have in-service events for. And then we have this third category. This is my no category. I've seen, and I can't tell you, I've seen this enough to talk about it, at least 20 plus. People submit, they'll email me a statement for me to read, and it talks about how their sleep apnea is connected to their PTSD. It's like, well, hold on. What are your credentials that you have as the veteran to say that your sleep apnea is from your PTSD? And so it comes down to statements surrounding the Nexus. I think that's a no-go, right? You're not a doctor. You're not a physician assistant. You're not an NP. You're just a veteran.
Unless it goes back to what you said, you're pointing to it. This is from that, as seen on page 7, paragraph 3 of medical whatever, right? Because that thread that you talked about that was tying it all together.
Absolutely right. If you want to say, hey, I went to go talk to my primary care about my sleep apnea and PTSD, that would be great. But I've seen statements that say, my sleep apnea is caused by my PTSD.
Right.
I'm
In
just using
lieu of
that as an
of
example.
medical evidence.
Yeah, I'm using
Right.
it as that as an example.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Got it.
those same veterans, and I would show you, but it would be a breach of PII. Those same veterans are like, I don't understand why I was denied. I had
Right.
the Nexus, and it's like, no, you didn't. You
Right.
submitted a statement with some words on it.
Right.
The
You
examiner
can't
did not make the
self-diagnose.
Nexus. Yeah, so
Right.
that's my kind of 3 categories, right?
Yeah.
Your things that can't be X-rayed,
Right.
your conditions that really don't need a statement
Right.
outside of the evidence, and
Right.
then Nexus. I think Nexus is a no-go. In general, that's how I would view statements. I want to get your final thoughts on that, and then we'll go ahead and transition.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. I think that really, number one, you must be mindful on what you put down and submit, because it's either going to be for you or against you, and you can F it up yourself. Just saying, right? So if you're what I call a rounder, right? So you round things off because it's just easier that way. And you joined the military 9 years and 10 months ago, and then you got out 3 years later, 4 years later, and then now you're filing your claim. And in your letter, you put down, it was 10 years ago that I started getting migraines. Well, guess what? That was before you joined. So now you just shot yourself in the foot because you rounded, because you tell everybody that you joined the military 10 years ago. So you didn't. You joined 9 years and X months ago. Mm-hmm. So you need to be thoughtful and this isn't just throw something together real quick, right? This is, I've said it before, look, treat this like it's a multi-million-dollar deal, right? Put the time and energy and effort into making sure that you absolutely have the right information. I'll say that anything that requires you to provide proof of Nexus without having evidence of in-service connection, so solid, like diagnosis. Anything other than diagnosis or documentation of a specific injury in service. If you don't have one of those things, documented in-service injury or documented diagnosis in service, if you don't have that, you better be writing a letter, right? In addition to getting a Nexus letter and everything else that you're getting, you're writing your own statement. So anything that requires that additional Nexus push. So there's 2 reasons why you would write a letter. One is for Nexus. The other is for severity. So to explain severity. Now, to your point, Clay, there's some things where it's like, okay, look, range of motion, it doesn't matter what I say. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get read by the funny meter, right? So it is what it is. You just need to be
you're supposed to, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. You're supposed to. Some of them I eyeball it, whatever, deal with that, cross that bridge when you get there. Ask them if they have one of those funny things. I take one with you. It's kind of like a protractor-ish thing. Anyway, there's a special fancy name for it that I don't know how to say. So that's going to get determined at your C&P, the range of motion stuff. For all the other types of conditions, so there's 2 types of conditions, like you were saying. If it's X-rayable or visually apparent on what they're, if you're missing a leg, you're missing a leg. Like, I don't need to say that. I don't need to, it's obvious. If my range of motion is my range of motion, it's an obvious thing. For the other things where it's relying on your data dump of your signs, symptoms, durations, how long, how impactful, frustrating, all those types of things, you're going to want to write a letter to explain that and articulate it appropriately, utilizing the schedule of ratings and the VA's words, so that way you guys can speak the same language. Because if you're not speaking the same language, then you're leaving it up to the VA to try to figure out what you mean. And 9 out of 10 times, they're going to dumb it down and give you a lower rating. All right, back to you, Clay.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. And One last thing, and then I'm going to transition. I do think a lot of YouTube creators, I'm trying to be careful with my words. I do think a lot of people put way too much emphasis on statements. And if I had any last word on statements, it would be what you said, Jason. Statements are in addition to. The second the addition to doesn't exist and it's in lieu of, that's when statements are pretty much useless. You're wasting your time outside of exactly what you described, that you didn't have the in-service event, but something did happen. You just don't have it documented, right? Outside of that, I think I'll say this. Statements are not what will win your claim. It's your evidence. Statements will guide the rater. Now, in the event you're at the board, that's a different story. That's kind of summarizes what, at least my thoughts on statements. Now, to transition, we have the last topic, which is should veterans check their claim status? The reason I want to talk about this, Jason, is because it kind of goes back to the self-healthcare thing. I cannot tell you, and I'm sure it's the same for you, how many questions I get for when's my claim going to be ready? I'm in prep for decision. When's my claim going to be done? When am I going to get my back pay? When am I going to do this? When is my HLR going to be answered? And just for everyone to know right now, here's your answer. I don't care what type of claim it is. There's not a single person on this planet that can answer an accurate timeline question. No one. Not the VA secretary, not the VA rater, not your VSO, certainly not people on YouTube, okay? No one knows when your claim's going to be complete or done, or how long it's going to be in evidence gathering. No one knows. And I don't know if you have the app, Jason. I know apps on iPhones, you being as old as you are, might seem foreign to you. That's another joke. Sorry. But the VA has an app, right? And you can check your claim status extremely easy. The issue is the VA, for some reason, has all these codes like 317, 316, 324, whatever. And then someone will check their claim and say, hey, 20 DBQs have been submitted. What does that mean? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. How am I supposed to know what that means? And it gets down to this. Here's my answer to this question. That was a long way around the barn here. Should veterans check the status of their claim? I'm going to say no. Absolutely not. I think veterans should submit the intent to file, actually take advantage of the intent to file, submit your evidence-based claims with your statements, with your evidence, do everything, submit and forget. And when you get the decision, I promise you the anxiety in your life is going to go down. What I can tell you is that by checking the status of your claim does absolutely nothing, right? It's like, ooh, I made it to evidence gathering. Okay. What does that mean? It means nothing. Like to you individually, that means nothing. Hey, my claim's in PFD. Okay.
Right.
To you, that means nothing. And I just wanted to, this is a huge anxiety-ridden topic. Everyone always checks the status of their claim. I would recommend that veterans don't. I want to hear your opinion on should veterans check the status of their claim or not.
I'm on the other side of the fence. So no matter what, it's going to be the longest time period of your life. If it's your first claim, especially. If you filed multiple claims, over your lifetime and now you're filing another one, you're a little less apprehensive about it, or stressed out about it. So my thought here is, one, when you file your claim, yes, it's going to be the longest time frame. Two is people who utilize veteran service offices, accredited reps, that type of stuff, will absolutely consistently reach out to their rep and say, hey, what's the status? And then the rep has to go, well, let me look. And then they're remote desktoping into, and they're getting emails from people. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. Check it yourself, because they're already understaffed. And so every extra 15 minutes from 30 people is like a day now has went by of checking on statuses for folks. So don't do that. I think you should check the status primarily not because it changes anything, not because it's going to make you feel better. And in some cases, it's going to stress you out, sure, because you might see it progress and then actually backtrack and go back to a previous section. And you're like, what the hell? That's normal. It happens. Sometimes they push it and they go, oh, I needed to finish doing this. And they bring it back and they finish doing that. And then they move it again. Mm-hmm. The main thing why I believe veterans should track it is, number one, the average claim time is about, I don't know, half a year or so. Doesn't mean that yours is going to happen in a half a year. Yours could take a year. Who knows, right? But what you want to do, because the VA is notorious of not getting things right, sometimes your claim ends up over here and nobody sees it. And it sits for months and months and months. It'd be nice to know that your little status thing didn't change for months and months and months. So you could then call the VA directly and say, hey, I noticed that my hasn't moved for 3 months. I filed it 6 months ago and it hasn't done anything. Oh, well, let me check. And it might prompt them to move forward, especially once you start to get over that 6-month hump, 7 months, 8 months. It's a way for you to just make sure that it is moving along. You can then reach out to your congressional member if you need to. My suggestion is work with an accredited rep. Your accredited rep has a backline phone number into the VA. They can call, have them check on it, see if it's stuck in the system. They can send emails to folks at the VA and say, hey, look, looks like this one's stuck somewhere. Can somebody look into it? The VA, just because you're in one part of the country doesn't mean it's going to send to the closest regional office. The VA has 2 different ways of processing your file. One is, if it's a special circumstance, they have a group of people that mostly look at those types of claims. Maybe it's an MST claim or something like that, where people have done a lot of those claims, so they have a better eye for getting those things processed. It might go to a specific group. If it's just a standard type of a claim, the VA is going to look nationally. And when I say the VA, I mean that their computer system and the algorithm will run and go, okay, this area of the country has a lower workload. We're going to start sending claims there. It might be on the other side of the country. It doesn't matter geographically where you're at. They're going to send it to wherever they, again, the algorithm of the VA system, thinks they're going to be able to get the fastest results for you. So there's a lot of computer movement of your claim. And sometimes, just like anything, your computer screws up, your phone screws up. What do? You have to shut it down, restart it, right? Maybe something that you had in some sort of an app now disappeared, right? So believe me, it's a big computer system and things happen. You are the only one who's going to care about your claim. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, at the end of the day, you need to watch it. Don't sit there and go a year and a half later, oh, I'm just waiting. No. If it hasn't moved a stage in like a 3-month period, I'd be making phone calls either to my accredited rep who helped me or to my congressional office who has a staffer who works VA stuff. So they deal with all the Department of Veterans Affairs issues, and they will then reach out to the VA on your behalf. You have to sign some stuff, letting them have the ability to do that. And they'll reach out and look, the VA is not going to go, oh, well, the Congress, office called me. Ooh, let's decide their claim today. No, they're just going to go, oh, okay, we'll look into it. Oh, well, sure enough, it did get stuck. We're working on it and we'll get it done as soon as we can. And they'll send that message back. But now it's unstuck and it's actually in process again. I know I talked a lot. Back to you, Clay. Woo.
Yeah.
You know what, Clay? It's hard to talk that much without breathing. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Breathe. That's important. Self-care, right? No, I 100% agree with you on that point, especially, if I was to give a time frame when I would start making calls, I think comfortably I would say a year, maybe 9 months.
I think 9. If it's not decided by 9, exactly, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And the congressional office would be my number one. There's also a VA White House hotline, which I've never used personally, but I've heard helps. But it's not hey, I submitted my claim 2 months ago, I'm going to make a call. I would caution anyone from doing that because whatever. Okay. But yes, Totally agree. I do want to bring up this last point, and then I'll kick it for your final thoughts and to close us out, Jason. Is if you're going to track your claim, the app is great. Your accredited rep is great. Don't bog them down, though. Just remember, the more you bog them down, the less time you're spending on your claim or anyone else's. Is a tool called the VA Claim Tracker tool. Was made by a veteran. It's absolutely free. It's on Google Chrome extension. I believe it works on Microsoft's Edge. And I know someone's going to comment it, so I'll just speak some nerdy stuff right here. I work in cyber stuff, okay? Cyber policy specifically. And so Google Chrome has a very, very extensive to-do checklist for extensions. And so the VA Claim Tracker tool had to pass their internal security stuff, okay? We'll say it like that. So yes, it's safe, but as with all things, the internet is the internet. It's always vulnerable. But yes, the VA Claim Tracker tool does work. You log into va.gov, you open up the extension, and what the Claim Tracker tool does is, believe it or not, on va.gov, there's information with your claim that's just not on the screen, right? It's in the interwebs, okay?
Right.
And so the Claim Tracker tool pulls it. It already exists. It pulls it and says, hey, your claims went to the national work queue and it shot out to this regional office. That's what Jason was describing about the geographical stuff. And it shows you some other stuff, and I'm sure there's going to be updates to the Claim Tracker tool. But if you're going to check your claim, I would use that prior to just checking on your app or asking your VSO. I'm a huge fan of veterans taking some self-accountability with their claim. The Claim Tracker tool, if you just Google VA Claim Tracker tool, you'll find it. You can download it. It's free. That would be my recommendation.
Can you get a hold of that guy or no?
I did. So I spoke to the creator. I have a video on it. I'll shoot you the video, so that way if you want to make your own.
Well, let's do it again.
Yeah. Okay.
Bring him on here or whatever, man, because I think that's pretty cool, and to get it from the horse's mouth. I mean, it's probably been a while, right?
Yeah. So it's about a year old. He has I'll link that in the comments below too. Yeah. He has a channel that has like 3 videos on it, but he made a tutorial on his tool that he made, and I'll just link that below in the comments. Yeah. It actually works. It's good. And then I'll reach out to him to have him on the channel, Jason. But those are my final thoughts on Claim Tracker.
Awesome. All right. So that's great. I love that. And I love that you brought that up because it shows movement. And so when you see movement, it's not stuck, right? Yeah. So that's a great tool to have. So with that, we covered a few things, right? Should you or should you not tell others about your VA rating? Probably most of the time not. If you're trying to help out another vet, sure, but then guide them to who they need to do. And guess what? Results may vary, right? That's always going to be it, right? Results may vary, but you have enough information out there to be dangerous and to help each other out. So you might as well help each other out. Should veterans use VA healthcare? Absolutely, for a multitude of reasons. Lay statements, super important, but not in lieu of medical evidence. That's always going to be the most important. It's a great addition is what that is. So utilize those lay statements. Remember that there's 2 different forms that you would use. One for you, writing a statement on behalf of yourself, and then one for others to use in statement in support of you. Should veterans check their status? Yes and no. I mean, if it's going to drive you crazy, maybe not. And then if you don't hear anything within a 9 month to a year period, maybe check in. Probably set yourself a specific time frame. You will get, believe me, if you're like most people, you're checking it every day, like Clay said. Yeah. Like you wake up in the morning, you check it. You get ready to go to sleep at night, you check it to see if there's any movement. Don't become so hyper focused on it that you lose track of the rest of life. Get your claim in. Number one most important thing. The clock is ticking, and you will get back paid to the date of your claim or your intent to file, which is actually more important, right? So utilize that intent to file to buy you that time. And then just check it periodically. Maybe set yourself, I'm going to check on the 1st and 15th of every month just to make sure that it's moving along. And just be there ready for that. It's going to take maybe up to 9 months. All right. So with that wraps it up. We really appreciate each and every single one of you watching the channel. Thank you so much for everything that you've done, contributed, comments, the thumbs up, the subscriptions, all of that. It really does mean a lot to us. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.